Hi, this is Dave Hunt from the British band ANAAL NATHRAKH, and you're listening to The Bloodshed with the Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International.
Dave, thank you very much for taking time out for this interview. It's a great honor to have you here, and I want to welcome you to the Metal Bloodshed with the Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me too.
It's been so many years that I'm trying to see when will be the day that I can interview a member of this great band, ANAAL NATHRAKH, and this finally happens today, Dave. I'm very pleased to have you here on the show.
I'd better say something interesting then, so I think you're going to be pretty disappointed otherwise.
Dave, for those who don't know you, besides being the co-founder and the vocalist of ANAAL NATHRAKH, you was also the longtime vocalist of the British death metal band Benediction since the late 90s, and have recorded 2 full-length albums with the band Organized Chaos that was in 2001 and Killing Music in 2008. You just was replaced in 2019 by Dave Ingram, whom you replaced in 1998. The band is also releasing their new album as well, Scriptures, this coming October. Dave, how was those years? I mean, go back with Benediction, and why did you decide to part way with the band?
Yeah, I mean, those years, that's most of my adult life. So it was a fairly big deal for me over the years. When I first started with Benediction, obviously they had been going for quite some time. People definitely knew who they were and everything, and they had their own history. They were a bit of a legendary band themselves already. So when Dave Ingram, who is their new but was then their old singer, left, yeah, they had a tour coming up, and it was all a little bit sudden. So there was a bit of a sort of panic. There was a tour with Death, and Benediction were the first band who'd ever been asked back on tour with Death again, I think. Chuck from Death was, very much an individual guy. I think he liked to have new people around him a lot of the time and stuff. So it was kind of a big deal to be asked back on tour with them, and then they've got no singer all of a sudden. So I was just someone who'd done a handful of gigs in local bands and everything, and Neil Hutton, who was the drummer of Benediction at the time, had been at one of those gigs, and he's like, oh shit, maybe some of my friends know this guy. I saw him play at some tiny little bar in Birmingham. So yeah, I went from probably having done 3 or 4 gigs ever to 12 people to, I think it was about a week after I got a call from Neil. I was in Rotterdam supporting Death with Benediction. It was a bit fucked up. But yeah, basically the next 20 years went by almost as a blur looking back on it. You know, I became lifelong friends with the guys. We'd been through thick and thin, been around the world. So yeah, it was an amazing time. Yeah, probably a couple of years ago, I kind of realised I was doing a PhD, a doctorate, and I kind of realised that coming into the final stages of that, I wouldn't be able to split my time up as I needed to. And with ANAAL NATHRAKH, it's me and Mick. We have live guys that we play with, but it's just me and Mick, and we just have a little chat about that and go, okay, well, we'll just keep things quiet for a while. I'll finish my academic work and then we'll be cool. But with the Benediction guys, I couldn't say to all 4 of the other guys, look, you just can't do anything for more than a year. You know, I couldn't say that to them. That would be ridiculous. So yeah, it was a horrible feeling after all that time, but I had to step down. But I remain good friends with the guys. I was round with the guitarists a few weeks ago, having a few beers. We're all just as close as we ever were, and I think they're in a good place now. They've got Dave back.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of people, he was like the classic Benediction singer. I know it's a long time since he was in the band, but he was kind of the part of the defining era of the band, and I think a lot of fans were happy to see him back. And I think the new album's really strong. So yeah, I mean, it all works out. It's not ideal. It was a shame that that I had to part ways with them, but it's all worked out okay in the end, I think.
I think the fans won't be so much disappointed since Dave replaced Dave again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of Benediction fans, when it was announced that I would have to leave, people were saying online, oh man, I hope they get Dave Ingram back and that. So I think it's going to go well for them.
Okay, let's go over to ANAAL NATHRAKH new and 11th studio album, Endarkenment, will see the light on October 2nd, 2020 via Metal Blade Record. The album are being released on not a normal condition and a difficult moment with this pandemic. Dave, what were and are the difficult things you guys experienced with finalizing this album? And if it's so, why didn't you guys decide to postpone for 2021 the release date?
Yeah, I mean, it was really the delays and everything that was the hardest bit for us, because we recorded the album back in late January, early February, and then with all the mixing and everything, all the work on it, I think it was finished in March, and we handed it it over to Metal Blade in March. So it was kind of complete almost exactly at the time that the Western world went to shit. So yeah, the timing was very questionable. And then nobody knew what would happen. Nobody knew if any albums would be released this year. Nobody knew. It was just impossible to guess what would happen next. And obviously the guys at Metal Blade, a lot of them were working from home, or they couldn't work at all, or it was all up in the air. So when Metal Blade turned around and said, okay, we've got a release date, we can do this now, we've got enough things in place to be able to do it properly, we're going to go for October. We were really happy with that, just because it was an end to being in limbo. It's a screwed up situation, because usually at this point in what you might call the release cycle, you're looking forward to the release, we'd be sorting out shows to play, we'd be looking at various things that we can do, and we just can't do anything. I can talk to people like you, we can put songs out on the net and all of that kind of thing, but that's it. So it is still a really weird situation that's a bit fucked up, but that's the world today. No one gets everything that they want right now.
ANAAL NATHRAKH, British extreme metal band formed in 1999. For those who don't know the band, for new fans, in Birmingham, to be more specific, England, UK. The band originally started as a raw black metal band. With the release of Domine Non Es Dignus 2004, the band shifted more towards blackcore, black metal. The band was created by multi-instrumentalist Mick Kenney, as you just said, and vocalist yourself, Dave Hunt. The band is celebrating 20 years last year. What have you done for this occasion, Dave? Or you will be celebrating it this year with the release of the new album?
Kind of neither, really. It was just over 20 years ago that we started, but we just don't think in those kinds of terms. It was like when we did the last album, people were saying, oh, this is the 10th album, and me and Mick were both like, oh, but is it? We've got no idea. I think it's perfectly understandable. It's kind of human that people will sit back and go, oh, wow, I've spent 20 years doing this, and look back on what they've done. But me and Mick just, maybe we're strange people, I don't know. We just don't see things that way. We don't think that way. We're interested in the things that we've just done, the things that we're doing now, the things that we're going to do next, and whether that's 5 years, 20 years, 13 albums, 40 albums, 2 albums, it doesn't make any difference to us. We just keep going. We live the moment kind of thing.
Dave, throughout the years, the band has put out some great albums, 10 to be more specific, without counting the new one. The Codex Necro 2001, the Domine Non Es Dignus 2004, Eschaton 2006, Hell of Empty, and All the Devils Are Here in 2007, and the Constellation of Black Widow, that was in 2009, Passion 2011, Vanitas in 2012, Desideratum in 2014, The Whole of Law in 2016, a new kind of horror that was in 2018, and each album has contributed with great solid tunes like Idol, The Final Destruction of Dignity, Forging Towards the Sunset, Hold Your Children Close and Pray for Oblivion, Forward, Obscene as Cancers, New Bethlehem, Mass Death Futures, etc. So many great tunes, Dave. I cannot continue to mention it. So many great tunes the band has put out throughout the years, and not to forget compilations and EP and shows and festivals all over the world. The band is now again approaching the release of a new album, the band's 11th full-length studio album with Endarkenment. What would you like to accomplish with this new album that the band has not yet accomplished with the previous albums, Dave?
I don't think there really is an answer to that. When we started out, we were only interested in doing what we were doing. We didn't think that if we carry on doing this, we will be able to insert here whatever it is that you want to do. We didn't think of it like that. So all I ever wanted to do was be able to walk into a shop and see one of my CDs in the record shop. And basically everything that happened since then has been gravy. I think pretty much anything we could ever have wanted to do, we've done. We've put out all these albums. We've played in all these places. We've been literally around the world. You know, we've played in Australia and Japan and America and all of this stuff. I don't think there's something that I can say we want to do that, because we've been so lucky and done so much. But there are things that it would be cool to be able to do.
Yeah. So there's no wish list that you say, I need to accomplish this or to finish this, to do this?
No, I don't think so, because that kind of thinking I don't think is conducive to good artistic results, because you're doing things almost as a vehicle to do something else. We think we're at our best when we're concentrating on the music and, you know, all of that kind of thing. But, I mean, we've never been to South America, for example. That would be amazing to be able to go down there and play. Maybe one or two other places, but that's the kind of thing. It's like places that we might be able to get to that we just wouldn't get to if we weren't doing music and that kind of stuff. But I think artistically and everything, we're still surprised and happy that we can do it at all. We're fairly down to earth kid, have far outstripped anything we ever thought we'd do anyway. So this is all just bonus.
But guess what? In South America, you have a lot of fans. So I guess you have to really start thinking going towards South America. It will be incredible to have you guys playing over there.
Yeah, it would be amazing. Yeah, irritatingly, that's one of the things about the virus. Last year, I was talking to because we've got a booking agent who's based in America. We got one in Europe. It's different parts of the world. Our guy for America, we were in negotiations for this really big festival in Colombia. And if we could get that show, then we could maybe build out from there, add more dates together, make a tour and kind of thing. So I was quite excited, actually, for something cool and new. But then the virus happened. So
yeah, too bad.
It'll happen next year. Maybe it'll come up again when the world goes back to normal one day, but we'll see.
I guess the minute you cross over the Atlantic, you're more than welcome to come to North America for sure, and South America. That would be awesome to have you guys here.
Yeah, man, it would. Fingers crossed, one day.
Dave, on November 11, 1918, millions of men laid down their guns, and it was the end of the First World War. Mm-hmm. On November 11, 2018, we remembered 100 years since the end of World War I, and war that was supposed to end all wars, but instead introduced trench warfare and chemical weaponry, forever changing the landscape of combat to this day. To give attention to this, British duo ANAAL NATHRAKH crafted an album that gives respectful tribute to the writings, poetry, and to sheer terror that World War I brought to those who survived to tell it. A new kind of horror captured that feeling of hopeless, frightening horror that accompanied one of the most horrific wars in history. A new kind of horror came from the same families as the whole of the law and Desideratum, the traditional setting of black metal grindcore and industrial metal broken up by clean chorus, now littered with electronic grooves and other increasingly desperate elements. Dave, what has this album meant for you, for the band, for the fans, for critics, and for all those that this album was dedicated for?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for those people who it was kind of about, if you know what I mean. But in terms of trying to do something that was worthy as a tribute, that was what we were aiming for. So to us, to me personally, it kind of almost felt like a bit of a risk, because this isn't child's play stuff that you're dealing with. There's really serious, very powerful stuff wrapped up. So one of the principal things that I was concerned with was kind of not letting it down. We had to try to do justice to the source material. And the fact, people might disagree, I don't think many people would, but it's possible to disagree that we achieved it. But I kind of feel that we did achieve what we were trying to do. And the fact that we were able to make a video for Obscene is Cancer that I think was really successful in capturing just the right kind of atmosphere and everything. Yeah, it's really tricky subject matter to engage with, but I feel really proud of the way that the album turned out and the way it reflected what we tried to do. So yeah, I'm really proud of it in retrospect.
Dave, thank you for this great explanation.
Squad and youth, Before my helpless sight, he plunges at me. You know my before my helpless sight, he plunges at me.
The band has worked with great labels like the French Season of Mist record and the British Candlelight Records for the early releases, but since 2014, Desideratum, inclusive the 2016, The Whole of the Law, and 2018, A New Kind of Horror, are with American label Metal Blade Records. Endarkenment will be the band's fourth studio full-length album with Metal Blade Records. How are things going in support of this band's new album?
They're going well. Metal Blade, cool to work with. They have various people in different parts of the world, so there's it's an interesting thing to correspond with all different people, your office and the American office and that, but they're very professional. They seem to be genuinely enthusiastic about the album and stuff like that. So the last album we did was the last album that we had to do. It was the last album with our contract with Metal Blade before, and for this album we signed a new contract with Metal Blade, and that probably tells you all you need to know. We were happy to work with them again. We're happy with the way things have been going basically the whole time we've been dealing with them. So yeah, they're good guys, I think.
Besides, thank you, Dave, and thanks, Mick. I like to thank Nikki Law of Metal Blade Record, who did her almost best to get me in touch with you guys for this great interview. And for fans out there dying to have this new upcoming effort, in how many different formats and packages will it be available?
Yeah, there are CDs and there are various configurations of vinyl, and I think there are probably downloads, and it'll be on Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music and all of those kinds of things. But in terms of specifics, no, you'd have to ask them. The record label, we do the music. They do everything else.
At least you know so far that it will be released in vinyls as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Several different colours and, all of that kind of stuff.
ANAAL NATHRAKH branch of extreme blackened grind death metal is as consistent as it thought-provoking and heavy. That was true of the 2018 A New Kind of Horror, and the very same is looking to be accurate for their next album, Endarkenment, with its recently released single and eponymous cut being the kind of explosive riff heavy style and the band highly regarded for, with all of multi-instrumentalist Mick Kenney's noisy guitars and sick blast beats, vocalist Dave Hunt's huge power metal refrains sitting in their usual place. The Birmingham duo 11th album, yes, Endarkenment, is out October 2nd, 2020. Dave, could you present us the album tracking list and how would you describe this new album?
Yeah, so the tracks on the version that will be released, I think: Endarkenment, Thus Always to Tyrants, The Age of Starlight Ends, Libidinous, brackets a pig with cocks in its eyes, Beyond Words, Feeding the Death Machine, Create Art Though the World May Perish, Singularity, Punish Them, and Requiem. I'm not particularly one for describing our music very well. I'd prefer if people listen to it, or journalists want to earn their living and they can do what they do with words. I do think it's a little bit crisper. It's a little bit more focused and clear, perhaps, than we've done before. I don't mean that it's not heavy. I don't mean anything like that. I just mean it's sharper, I think. You can feel it more directly. Other than that, I don't know. You'll have to listen to it for yourself. You tell me.
Dave, so far I only listened to the premiere, yes, to the one you guys already released to celebrate the reveal of the band's upcoming 11th full-length effort. Dave, you guys have shared the first taste by releasing a video for the title track Endarkenment, premiered last August 4th. I'd like to congratulate what a perfect song as the album opener. The track Endarkenment is marinated in ANAAL NATHRAKH dark, explosive blend of industrialized black metal and grindcore they so faithful laid down for nearly 2 decades now. Sinister tremolo pick melodies, inhuman blast beats, and Dave, you with an outstanding combination of vocals with a high shriek intertwined with rapturous, clean singing. Is there anything you like to share about this video of the first promotional track of the band's upcoming brand new album? And how was it working with David Broski?
It was cool working with Dave, but it was a bit weird because we had to do this during lockdown. So yeah, usually for this kind of video, you'd have at least a cameraman and probably a few other people around. Dave would be there and all of that kind of stuff. But for this, it was almost kind of like a DIY kind of thing. I had to record it in the function room of a local pub just because that was the only place that was available to use. And then I was talking to Dave Brodsky via WhatsApp on my phone rather than having the actual director be there to direct. So everything was a bit screwed up by the virus, but I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. I'm struggling to think how it would have been all that different if we'd been able to do other things. I mean, one of the things that Mick and I both don't particularly like is to be in videos ourselves. We'd rather a video sort of tells a story rather than shows us. But that was obviously just something that we had to do this time around because there was nobody else that we could film. There was only me because we couldn't get close to actors or anything like that. It's kind of like, if you go back to like literature, it's like a sonnet. A sonnet has a very strict set of rules for how you write it, but then within those rules, it's all about what you can create. And this was kind of like that. We had a comparatively limited way of doing things, limited amount of things we could do, but within that, we could play around and, try to adapt to the situation. And I think it came out quite well. And the reaction seems to have been really good. People seem to like the song and think the video's compelling. So fingers crossed. I'm quite happy with it.
Dave, talking about the recordings, the instrumental parts of the album were recorded in California at multi-instrumentalist Mick Kenney's studio, while the vocal parts were recorded in Birmingham, England, UK. Has the songwriting gone in much a different way this time compared to the previous albums? And how long of a process was the recording of this new album been?
No, we did things in terms of who writes what and all of that kind of thing. It was pretty much as it usually has been. I mean, obviously we were writing new songs, so everything was different. But no, the actual writing phase, music-wise, for Mick to come up with it was ridiculously fast. I mean, Mick has a particular talent for that kind of thing anyway. It's partly because he sort of gets the right atmosphere and then he can just sort of turn that into music almost. I don't know how he does it, but that's his talent. He's amazing at doing that. So the music on the album was all written probably within less than a week, which is just a ridiculous thing. No one ever does that. I don't know how he does it, but he did. And then, came over to Birmingham. We recorded the vocals together again in about a week, going through a little bit more slowly than it had been for Mick writing it. But that was it, so maybe 2 weeks, and then time mixing and editing bits, and we send things backwards and forwards until we're both happy with it. But yeah, probably about a month in total from start to finish for the album. But it's not about amounts of time, it's about quality, not quantity. So that's what took us this time to produce something that we were really pleased with. So next time, God knows, I've no idea what it'll be like, but yeah, this time that's how it was.
But to go back to that, when you were doing the vocals recordings, the same place or corridor, there was some kind of porn filming going on too?
Yeah, we recorded in just like we call it a unit. It's basically just a room on an industrial estate rather than anything posh or clever. Yeah, we were walking up and down the corridor outside to go to the toilet or whatever, and we could hear these strange noises coming from one of the rooms. We actually thought someone was being abused or beaten up or something, and so we got quite concerned. But then Mick and I both stood in this corridor trying to listen to see, do we call the police? Do we break the door down? What's going on? And then we figured out what it was. We were like, right. No, the police don't need to be called for this. And yeah, it turns out there's this weird little fetishistic porn studio in one of the units there, but it takes all sorts. It's all part of the rich tapestry of life.
When I read it, I said, I must remember to ask you that part. It's sort of funny. And encourage you to do the better vocals.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm not sure how exactly, but yeah, it happened and the vocals came out well, so maybe that was part of it.
Okay, Extremity has been ANAAL NATHRAKH stock in trade for more than 2 decades, and with the 11th album, Endarkenment, they maintain their legacy of oral devastation. However, for all the furor they disrupt, do have never been a two-dimensional entity with a great deal of depth involved in everything that they do, and on many levels of the new record is distinguished from its predecessors. What are the plans, futures for the band in support of this great new album, Dave?
That's a good question. Usually there are various things that we'd be thinking of doing at the moment, most importantly booking shows and things like that, but we just have no idea. Now, the virus is the virus. Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows what it is. And some bands are starting to book shows and announce, a couple of festivals have been announcing stuff for next year, but I just don't think that's a good idea at the moment. I don't think that's possible. Back in March, people were talking about moving summer events to maybe October, but that's not going to happen, is it? So I think with any integrity, we can't agree to do things and announce that we're going to do them for the foreseeable future. I just don't know yet. So yeah, if a vaccine comes along and we can say all of a sudden, I don't know, next summer things will definitely be okay, then we can start to plan. But until then, I just don't know. That's the truth. We'll see.
Most of the festivals that has already been booked for 2020 already has been relocated to 2021. So most of these festivals already booked with the same band that was on the bill for 2020. So that gives it so much difficulty for band that was busy recording this year to come up the 2021 bills.
Yeah, it might do. But like I say, I'm not confident that things will be back to normal next year either. Maybe they will. I mean, obviously, we all have to hope that they will, but I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, maybe things will go back to normal. There'll be no slots on any stages and we won't do anything to promote it. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. But once things can be done realistically, once we can really make plans, we'll see what we can do. I expect it will be possible to fit us in.
Listen, I believe that things will start going to normal for 2021. And I'm sure we're talking about ANAAL NATHRAKH. We're not talking about any bands. Their show will be slots be open for you guys. I'm sure it's going to be okay. If you have the new album out, you should be out there. You should be promoting this album out there live on tour.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. It will be interesting, put it that way. I'm curious to see what shape the world is when things do start to return to normal.
Dave, I want to thank you very much for having taken this time to make this interview possible. I want to hand you over the microphone of Metal Messiah Radio for you to invite all your friends, the fans, to support the band, to buy the band's earlier albums, and to buy this last album, masterpiece that will come out, Endarkenment, to be released October 2nd, 2020 via Metal Blade Record. But before we leave, Dave, for fans that wants to buy the band merchandises, what is there available? Yes, I mean, what about t-shirt, hoodies, merch that has the band new logo on?
Yeah, there's a range of stuff that we do that I don't know the actual individual things that are on sale at any given time. I'm not in charge of the shop, but yeah, there's loads of stuff. And the packages that are available with the new album from Metal Blade, there are bundles with t-shirts in and stuff like that as well. So yeah, if you hit Google or whatever to to find stuff, it's out there. You'll find it.
Okay, so once again, Dave, the microphone of Metal Messiah Radio is all yours to thank whoever you want to thank.
Okay, well, I have no one in particular to thank apart from your good self, Jacobo. Thank you for talking to me. And yeah, anyone out there, thank you for giving a shit and listening for this long. I can only apologise for your probable deafness and almost certain minor insanity, but thanks anyway. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see you at some point soon.
Dave, once again, thank you very much. Say hello. Say hello to...
Thank you.
Say hello to my good friend, Mick Kenney.
I will do. I'll pass it on. Yeah.
I wish you all the best with the band, all the best with this great upcoming new album, Endarkenment. And like we just said, I'm looking forward to see you guys on the road this coming 2021.
Yeah, man. Me too. Fingers crossed.
Okay, like I always say, metal on. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.